Bole Baba Ki Jai, Jagdambe Mata Ki Jai, Haryakandashwari Mata Ki Jai. So we'll begin with a chant to Ganesh, since it's Wednesday and it's Ganesh's day. Sorry for the microphone noise. So it's number 3 in your bhajan books.
23.
Oh, 23 is better?
23 is a short.
23, okay. Got it?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. And this means, come Mother, come into our hearts. Very beautiful. minutes? Great, well, this is a wonderful story. And this is about a young prince who has, his mother brought him into the forest because his father, the king, had been killed in a hunting accident. And even though he was the rightful heir at 5 years old to the crown, he had a brother who was 1 month younger, whose grandfather came and fought a battle and defeated his grandfather. And so the younger son, the younger brother, whose name is Jita, I think, took over the throne, and Manorama and her son, Sudarshana, ran away to the forest and is being protected by a Muni in the forest. And what has happened is that he has come upon one of the sacred mantras of the Divine Mother, and saying that, he's been just blossoming into a beautiful, beautiful young man. And the Divine Mother even appeared to him and gave him a beautiful coat of armor and a bow and an arrow, because he had nothing. He was just living on roots and fruits in an hermitage. So, but then on top of that, the very ending was that this beautiful princess named Sashikali heard about him from a fellow Muni who lived in the ashram where this young prince was growing so beautiful. And when she heard about him, she fell in love with him, even though she'd never seen him. So here we have a beautiful princess living in her kingdom with her father, in love with this prince who had nothing, just roots and fruits that he ate. So we ended yesterday by saying, so Prince, he was still a prince, even though he had nothing, Sudarshana, who had lost his kingdom when he was barely 5 years old, who has grown up on the wild roots, fruits, and berries in a rishi's ashram in the heart of the forest, with no wealth or army and no power, found a kingdom to rule over, which he never dreamt of. Never knowing it, he became the king of a beautiful princess's heart, Sashikali. So here we go. Sashikali had learned the Saraswati mantra when she was just a quiet child. So this tells you the power of these sacred prayers that we say. This one is to Mother Saraswati. So she learned this mantra when she was just a child, and now she began to chant it every day and to pray to the Devi to make Sudarshana prince of her dreams and the lord of her life. One day when he was meditating on his Kama mantra, Sudarshana had another vision of the Divine Mother. The next morning it happened that the hunter king brought him a gift for Sudarshana, who was his friend. He arrived in the forest with a splendid chariot with 4 white horses yoked. The hermit of the ashram said to Sudarshana, "The Devi has blessed you. All the omens cry out that you will soon be king of the world." Sudarshana redoubled his worship, and anywhere he rode in his chariot, it would seem that an army rode with him of countless foot soldiers, horses, and elephants. It was the magic of the Mula mantra. That prince felt as if he was already monarch of a great kingdom, for the wind whispered that he was. The birds called him a king, and the animals of the forest honored him. He worshipped the Divine Mother at every moment and was perhaps happier than any king with a real kingdom. But Sashikala pined for him, the lover she had never even set eyes on, and with only her favorite sake had she shared anything. The princess was pale as a lotus flower and never came out of her bedchamber. Her father, King Sabahu of Kasi, decided that only a husband could cure her daughter of the ailments, and hastily decided to hold a swayambara, at which she could choose any prince she cared for. Sabahu had an opulent pavilion built for his daughter Swayambara, but even while the construction was underway, his child said stubbornly to her servant, "I love Sudarsana. I shan't marry any other prince." The servant went to the queen and told her what Sashikala had said, and the queen, in turn, told her husband, Sabahu. The king listened to this in astonishment, and then he began to laugh as if he had never heard anything so absurd. He said to his wife, "Sudarshana is a pauper, hiding in a rishi's ashram. He has no kingdom, no wealth, no army, no power. What kind of prince is he? Tell Sashikala to remove this foolishness from her head. She will see 100 fine princes at this Swayambara. She can choose anyone she likes." The queen called her lovely daughter and set her on her lap, as she used to when the princess was a child. She said, "My child, you must forget this fantasy you have woven about Sudarsana. It is time to begin your real life. Your father has heard what you have been saying, and it has made him very anxious. Do you know that Sudarsana is the most unfortunate prince in all the world? How can you even think of marrying him? He has no kingdom, no friends except the hermits of the forest, no wealth or power. He lives on fruits and roots. And you, my precious child, there is no princess as beautiful as you in all the world. Forget this childish fantasy, Shashikali. You will see 100 magnificent princes at your Swayambara, and you can choose any of them to be your husband. Why, Sudarshana himself has a brilliant brother, Shatrujita, who is king of Kosala. You could have him if you want." The queen lowered her head. Are you okay? Do you need anything?
No.
Oh, I thought maybe you were
No.
raising your hand.
I'm.
The queen lowered her voice then, and her eyes full of warning said, "Satyajita's grandfather, Udajita, is determined to kill Sudarshana at the first chance he gets, so his grandson's throne is secure. The prince has escaped with his life so far only because the Muni protected him, saying that he was just a child and should not be harmed. But the prince is a young man now, and how long will the Rishi save him from Uttajita? Uttajita has already killed his grandfather. Sudarshana's will be next." But her daughter replied, "The divine mother herself appeared to me in my dream and told me that Sudarshana is destined to be my husband. How can I marry any other man?" The day before the Swayambara, Shashikala was feverish with anxiety. She sent a secret message to the Muni's ashram. The message the man bore for Prince Sudarshana was, "The Devi Bhagavati has ordained that you and I be married. Tomorrow is my Swayambara. Oh Prince, make sure you are in my father's city tomorrow, or I will kill myself before I become any other man's wife." When Sudarshana heard the message, he prepared to set out at once, for an irresistible sense of destiny stirred in him too. The Muni gave him his blessing, but when his mother, Manorama, heard that he meant to do, she wailed, "You mustn't go. Udajita will kill you if he sees you there. My son, you are all I have, the support of my old age. Don't abandon me, please." But her son said serenely, "Mother, what is written must come to pass, and not you nor I can prevent it. But it is the Devi Bhagavati who commands me to attend the Swayambara, and I must go." And I forgot about the microphone. Just a moment, thank you. I hope this was clear enough, sorry. So many little technicalities. Okay. So he said, "Mother, what is written must come to pass, and not you or I can prevent it. But it is the Devi Bhagavati who commanded me to attend the Swayambara, and I must go." Seeing he was determined, his mother began to shower blessings on him. "Ah, my son, let Ambika protect you and watch over you." Then she cried, "I will also go with you, my child. You cannot go alone into danger." Manorama, who was once a queen, climbed into her son's chariot They set out for Kashi. In that city, its queen Sabahu received them with honor. When he saw how splendid was the prince who had grown up in the forest, he housed Sudarsana and his mother in a large mansion and had his own servants wait on them. Kings and princes from all over the land had gathered at Varanasi for Shashikala's Swayamvar, for word of her beauty had traveled everywhere. Yudhajita had come to Kashi as well, bringing his grandson Satyajita, who was king in Kosala. When Yudhajita heard that Sudarshana had arrived in his chariot, and the princess preferred the prince who had nothing, the king roared, "I will kill that upstart. Sashikala will marry my grandson, Satyajita." But the king of Kerala, another kingdom, who had famed for his knowledge of Dharma, said, "This is a Ichcha Swayamvara. The prince's choice shall be binding. There is no place here for arms or a show of strength. Why are you anxious when Satyajita is such a brilliant prince? Moreover, he is king of Ayodhya. Why shouldn't Shashikala choose him, or indeed any of the other Kshatras here? Calm yourself, Yudhajita. Your hands are already tainted with the blood of his grandfather, Virasena." But the king growled, "The jackal doesn't dare eye the lion's prey. Why is Sudarshana here at all? Kshatriya doesn't live by fine words, but by the sword." And he stalked away from the other kings. Seeing Yudhajita was intent on killing Sudarshana, the other kings went to Sabahu, their host. They asked the lord of Kashi, "Why is Sudarshana here? Do you make a mockery of the Swayamvara? Yudhajita means to kill him." The king of Kashi said, "My daughter has set her heart on him. How many times I begged her to forget the pauper, but she does not listen. I am helpless, my lord. Shashikala called Sundarasana here. I did not." The king of Kerala said, "Let Sudarshana be fetched here. We will ask him what he intends to do." Sudarshana was sent for and came before the glittering throng of rulers of the earth. He stood quietly there, not speaking, until one king said to him, "This is a Swayamvara for royal kings. The most powerful princes on earth have come here to vie for the princess's hand. We all have come with our armies, and some of us are ready to do battle for Shashikala. How have you come here, unattended, bringing only your mother with you?" Another said, "You have no kingdom, army, or wealth. You don't belong in this company. You are a hermit. Tell us how you dared come to Kashi." Sudarshana had a smile on his face. In a soft voice, he said, "My lords, all that you say is true. I have no kingdom, legions, friends, or wealth. I heard of the Swayamvara and I came to watch it with no special purpose. But my lords, I did not come of my own will, but because the Devi, the Divine Mother, Bhagavati, told me to. The Devi, who is my goddess, is all of yours as well. I have no enmity with any of you, but if you decide to make an enemy of me, she, who is the cause of all causes, the mother of the universe, will protect me. I only do what she asks of me. My life is in the hands of one who spins the wheel of fate." But the king said, "What you say is true, but Yudhajita means to have your head." Sudarshana laughed. He said, "A man is born into this world by his karma, and by fate alone does he leave it when his time has come. Not a moment before his time comes can any man be killed by any king or even by the devas. It is only Kal, time, who creates and destroys a man. I am a Bhakta of the Divine Mother, from whose hands time flows. She protects me, and I fear neither Yudhajita nor any other man." The king saw how determined he was, and the best of them was secretly pleased. The next morning, Sabahu ushered his royal guest into the Sabha he had built for the Swayamvara. Such a resplendent assembly. Silk jewels everybody was just beautiful. Then 1,000 conches played at once, and the auspicious time had arrived. In some excitement itself, King Sabahu went his way through the passage and knocked on his daughter's door. Shashikala opened that door, and she was more beautiful than her father had ever seen her. She had just bathed and put on the resonant silks and ornaments that were heirlooms handed down from the ancient mothers of her family. She looked like a goddess stepped down briefly into the earth of mortal man. Her father stood before her, breathtaking. Sabahu says, "Come, child, take up the garland you will set around your husband's neck. All the princes and kings are waiting for you." But the princess said, "I will not go to the Swayamvara. The Shastras say that only a dissolute woman parades herself before the eyes of so many men, for all men have lust in their hearts. Even as I walk into that sabha, they will strip me naked with their gazes, and my chastity will be forfeit. Am I a whore that so many men must cast their eyes over me and think how desirable I am? I do not care for this Swayamvara, father. I've already chosen my prince, and I will marry him. This garland is for Sudarshana only. If you love me at all, choose an auspicious day and give me to the prince." Sabahu saw the tears in her child's eyes, and he knew that her heart was true and was made up. He clasped her in his arms to comfort her, but then he said, "What will I do now? The kings have come. I cannot face them all by myself. As for Sudarshana, he has no soldiers to fight for him." Anxiously, the king made his way back to the Swayamvara, and as bravely as he could, Sabahu said, "My lords, though I begged my daughter and her mother implored her as well, she will not come to the Swayamvara. I do not know what to do and throw myself upon your mercy. I am prepared to give you all gold and jewels as will satisfy you in return for the trouble you have been put to. My lords, my Sashikala is still a child, as you see by what she does. If I punish her or force her to come out here, I fear she will kill herself. I beg you, think of her as your own daughter and forgive us both." Perfect silence fell on the Sabha, and it was a sympathetic quiet, for the kings had been moved by what Sudarshana said to them earlier. But Yudhajita's eyes burned with crimson, and he roared, "Sabahu, you fool! It is time to tell us this. Is this the time to tell us this? Are you an idiot as well that you couldn't anticipate this? And I suppose you mean to give us your daughter the daughter to this penniless Sudarshana after making fools of the rest of us. But I will not stand for it. I will kill you first, witless king. Then Sudarshana and my grandson Satyajita will marry your Sashikali over her father's dead body, if need be. Listen to me, Sabahu. A man must think of family honor, wealth, and equality when he gives his daughter in marriage. Marriage is not a matter of a young girl's whim of a day. We both know that, and do all these kings. You and I have been friends for many years. Let reason prevail. Fetch your daughter. Let her choose any Kshatriya for a husband, and I am content. Any except Sudarshana, whose life I will not spare today." As it seemed that Yudhajita had swayed most of the other kings because they began to murmur among themselves that Sabahu had indeed made fools of them, Sabahu bowed his head and said, "I will ask my wife to speak to Shashikala." He went and told his wife what had happened. The queens saw how distraught her husband was. They went to Shashikala and said, "If you insist on being stubborn, Yudhajita means to kill your father and Sudarshana. You are still young. You don't understand. I beg you, give up this. Save your father's life." The queen wept before her daughter, but Shashikala said, "Father, marry me to Sudarshana at once, and then turn us both out of your city. At least you will be safe then, and faith's purpose will be fulfilled. Whatever she intends to do, I can never give up Sudarshana, any more than I can pluck my heart from my body and then hope to live on." Shashikala took her father's hand and said, "My lord, it is the Devi who has decided that I will belong to Sudarshana and no one else. She will protect us from all these kings, Their power is nothing before hers. Her voice was low as she added, and if Bhagavati so decides, I will die at Sudarshana's side, rather than betray my love. Suddenly Sabahu also felt implicitly calm, as if someone unseen had plucked his anxiety from him. He embraced his daughter, then went back to the Swayambara group and announced, "There will be no Swayambara today. I have decided my daughter shall be married tomorrow instead. My friends, bear with me until then. Return to your camps now, and we shall meet again tomorrow. Perhaps I will decide a trial string. Until tomorrow, then, my lords." And Sabahu swept out of the sabha. He sounded so confident that Udajita and the others felt sure that he had persuaded his daughter to change her mind. They left the city and back to their camps. Meanwhile, in a sequestered apartment in the very heart of the king's palace, frenzied preparations were underway for a secret wedding. Sudarshana and her mother had been fetched, and the prince from the forest was being clothed in the finest silk. Not far from the apartment, a delighted princess was also being adorned as a ravishing young bride. The Brahmins in Sabahu's palace had hastily found an auspicious time. When the time arrived, Sudarshana was led to the wedding chambers and made to sit on the deity. He was given all the proper ornaments and offerings, and the sacred fire was kindled, and Sashikali was fetched by the older women of the court. When Manorama saw the princess, tears of joy filled her eyes. Sashikali was as lovely as Kubera's daughter. The bride and groom sat before the fire, side by side. Then it was time for gifts after the wedding, and the Lord of Kashi came to Manorama, the past queen, and bowing deeply before her, he said, "O queen, I am your servant now. Tell me what I can do for you." The tears escaping softly from Sudarshana's mother, Queen Manorama said, "I have no words with which to thank you, but I see that there is no king in all of India as noble as you are, Sabahu of the great heart." Smiling, Sabahu said, "Rule my kingdom from now on, Manorama, and I will be your servant. Or stay in Kashi with your son. Let him have half my kingdom." Then a shadow crossed his face, and he said grimly, "But I must try and appease the others. But I have no fear. Victory will belong to the side that has Dharma with it, and the Divine Mother's blessing." Manorama said softly, "Let fear have no hold over your heart's noble king. I have seen a miracle today, and faith fills my heart. I am certain more that now that the Divine Mother's grace, by the Divine Mother's grace, my son will have Ayodhya back one day, Ayodhya that is rightfully his." The Sabahu and Manorama, talking until dawn broke, and the kings camped outside came back. And by that time the news had come, and they were saying, "Sabahu deceived us. We will kill him, and Sudarshana as well, and take Kashi for ourselves, and Sashikali." Even as they spoke, a serene Sabahu arrived in the midst with his guards and ministers. Silence fell over the group, and Sabahu, folding his hands to them, bowed and said, "My lords, be kind enough to join us for a banquet to celebrate my daughter's wedding. Friends, nothing I could do would change her mind to give herself to Sudarshana. The thing is done, and I beg you to forgive me if I have caused offense, and to come to my palace and bless the young couple and eat with us." But the angry king said, "We have already eaten. There are other matters we must now attend to." They spoke with such menace the fear gripped Sabahu, and went back quickly. Some of the other kings led by Uttajita decided they would blockade Kashi, and when Sudarshana emerged with the bride, they would kill him and take Sashikali for themselves. Some of them decided they would stay to watch what happened. So this is the final part. It gets better. The soldiers brought word to Sabahu that the kings had blocked the entrance to the city. "You must let us leave now," says Sudarshana. We will go to Muni Bhadravacha's ashram first, and then decide where we go from there. Fear nothing, my lord. The Devi Bhagavati, the Divine Mother, who is the mother of the universe, protects us. What can these kings do against her power? Sabahu said, I will come with you, at least for a way. They came to the city gates, Sudarshana riding on his white chariot with Sashikali beside him, and they saw the enemy's host confronting them. Sudarshana began to intone his mantra and thought fervently of the Divine Mother. All around the chariots there rose the sound of conches, the blare of trumpets, and the roll of 1,000 drummers. Sudarshana stood absorbed, his eyes shut. Sabahu saw this Uttajita led the blockading army with his grandson Shatrujita beside him. Roaring, the enemy flew at Sudarshana in his chariot, his half-brother before all the others. Arrows darkened the sky, and Sabahu plunged his troops forward, his soldiers around him to meet the enemy's charge. Suddenly, a hush fell on the field, and both armies froze in their ranks. Uttajita and Satyajita froze as their horses reared in alarm at the strange apparition which had materialized between the two forces. An immense lion, and upon the golden beast's back rode a shimmering goddess, her luster like another sun, risen on the earth. She rode her lion between the two armies, daring anyone to approach her. Sudarshana opened his eyes and murmured, Look, Sashikali, the Divine Mother has come to protect us. Sabahu stood in trance. Uttajita roared, Who is this woman who rides a lion? What does she want here? That moment the lion gave a roar that drowned every other sound on the field. Horses and elephants bolted. There was a channel cleared through Uttajita's legions, a way along which Sudarshana now fearlessly drove his chariot. Uttajita roared, Shall we let a mere woman and one lion frighten us? Kill them, and kill the upstart Sudarshana. And he plunged at Sudarshana his bow, flaring arrows, and Satyajita beside him. Sudarshana held them both off for a time, then suddenly the Devi, the Divine Mother, was at his side on her beast. Uttajita shot his arrows at her as well, and Satyajita too. The crimson Devi smiled. She raised her own bow in one of 8 hands. With another hand, she loosed a volley at the enemies. In a blur, both Uttajita and Satyajita were dead, their heads struck off by the Divine Mother's crescent-tipped shafts. Suddenly it seemed 1,000 Divine Mothers stalked the fields of war in 1,000 dreadful guises, riding 1,000 beasts. The enemy perished in a scarlet tide of blood before Durga's legion of her own selves, and those that did not flee screaming. Sabahu leaped down from his chariot and prostrated himself before Bhagavati, the Divine Mother. Again and again he lifted his head, then set it down in the dust at her holy feet. Mother, Jagadamba, I have no words with which to praise you. Divine Mother, unworthy as I am today, I have seen you with my very own eyes. I see how you protect your bhaktas, your devotees, O Devi. You have come yourself to save Sudarshana's life. O Mother, Transcendent One, I lay my head at your feet. Mother, bless me. The Devi smiled tenderly and said to Sabahu, King of Dharma, name your boon. What more? And he said, what more could any man want than seeing you like this with his mortal eyes? Not the kingdom of the Devas is more precious than what I have seen today. I beg you, Devi, for the boon of bhakti, for devotion. Let my faith in you never waver, and let your grace be upon my city forever. Bless me, Mother, that I be your bhakti forever. The Devi said, I will remain here in Kashi always, good Sabahu, for as long as Kashi stands upon the face of this earth. Sudarshana arrived and fell at the goddess's feet, tears of ecstasy flowing down his face. He worshipped her. Mother of the sky, Mother of mercy, you have saved me today. Though I have such scant faith, Let me be your servant from this day, Divine Mother. Command me, what shall I do with my life now? Where shall I go? Smiling, the Divine Mother said, have you forgotten Iodia, your father's city, Sudarsana? Go to Iodia now and rule as king of Iodia, for that is who you are. Worship me always, Sudarsana, and I will care for you and yours. Keep a murti, a statue of me in your kingdom. Pray to me at all the proper times, and I will be with you. Celebrate the Navratri pujas in autumn, for it is mine. Fear nothing, Sudarshana. You are my devotee, and I love you. Jai Mahamaya ki jai. Mother Lakshmi Mata ki jai. Mother Saraswati Mata ki jai. Mother Durga Mata ki jai. Bole Baba ki jai. Thank you for being with us. And tomorrow we'll be back at 9 o'clock for Devi Puja to Mother Saraswati, and then fire ceremony at 11. So Bole Baba ki jai.
Jai.